And welcome back to an episode of the Geek Centurions. It's me, your boy Eli.
It's me, Joe.
And we are reacting to the ONL Gamescom announcements. So the announcements from the Geoff Keighley's little thing.
Yeah, opening night live.
Yeah.
ONL, yes.
Yes, because chances are there will be other announcements, but we probably won't be getting to them because
Yeah, like this is
our schedules were off, man.
yeah, and also like this is usually how it seems like it happens. Like obviously we get like E3 kind of stuff going on. I mean, I don't think we had E3 this year, sadly, but we basically still had like June basically being like beginning of June being basically announcements for like a bunch of games, and obviously Gamescom is like the next big games sort of industry thing where they announce a bunch of stuff. And Tuesday night not Tuesday night. I guess it's Tuesday afternoon for us because it's in Germany. They announced a bunch of stuff, and overall, I thought it was an alright presentation. But there are some interesting titles to talk about. I mean, not obviously. I don't think anybody. I think people were, maybe expecting too much. I think I saw comments being like, "Where's God of War? That's coming out this year. Let's see more God of War," and all that other stuff. But I think for the most part, I have a couple of games I read down that I think were interesting to talk about. So we'll get to that. I think the first one, is the first game they announced. Actually, I think is the most interesting one.
Yeah, because there's a lot of conversations going around with that one.
A lot of controversy with this one. Everywhere. Which, from what it seems like, it's supposed to be like this sort of like interactive, like game of some kind, of like just people being able to interact in like a virtual space. And what's interesting about it?
Well, it's called Everywhere, right?
Yes, everywhere. And what's interesting about it is it seems to be maybe like having some NFT stuff involved, which NFTs, not to get too into it, but it's like Bitcoin, blockchain related stuff. It's pretty controversial because essentially it's people owning stuff that isn't really a thing, like if you see those weird dumb looking apes that people have in their Twitter profiles sometimes, that's what an NFT is. And we're not going to get into it.
No, yeah, they're non-refundable tokens. I recommend looking it up.
Yeah, there's probably
thousands of videos.
Yeah, thousands of videos that are better explained than we could ever do on this podcast.
Yeah,
but you can form your own opinions. But in the gaming community, NFTs are seen as bad because they're essentially like worse microtransactions. Right?
Yeah,
it's feared that they will turn into like worser microtransactions of like people being able to own digital items that aren't really theirs.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing about it is that the game Everywhere hasn't had a stance on whether it will have NFTs, but it is hiring people that are like
known for making NFTs.
Yeah, like we want to hire people that like know the blockchain and that's Bitcoin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very cryptic, very interesting, especially for like the first game of this Gamescom announcement stuff. It's like, because I know like I have seen like other gaming companies being like, no, we're not gonna do NFTs. We don't think you don't think it's
Square.
Right. Yeah, Square. Oh boy, Square Enix.
Ooh.
They're like, hell yeah, we'll get you NFTs. Friggin', we'll make it. We'll get you all the NFTs.
NFTs in the next Final Fantasy. God no.
We'll make the next Final Fantasy VII remake into an NFT.
Oh God. No.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's a slippery slope.
It is very much a slippery slope. It's very like from an artistic standpoint, it's kind of like shit because the idea is that you make something and like you have ownership, but then you really don't have ownership of it, and it's like really contradicted to the idea of like what art is supposed to be. But anyways, yeah, it's a really weird thing to announce first.
Yeah.
I don't know if Geoff knew that.
I mean, it definitely seemed like he wanted to like they wanted to, like, he was like definitely wanting to like get more information out of it. I mean, if you go back and watch it, it does seem like the guy who's presenting the game is kind of like, like keeping his lips sealed a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because that's how it usually is with game announcements and like having the developers up, and they don't want to do a Sean Murray, No Man's Sky where they promise too much and underdeliver.
Yeah, but then Sean Murphy ended up making it happen though.
Yeah, I mean, that took a lot of time and effort, though. And obviously, I mean, no one wants to end up like No Man's Sky where you have to, like, buckle down and, like, improve. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know a lot of people have more or less forgiven Hello Games for that, but there's still a bunch of others that are like, it should have, like, if it had to take this long to get the game to be where it's at, then you shouldn't have released it. You should have, delayed it. But obviously, there's a whole worms can of that stuff. But, moving on, I think one of the other big games that was interesting, especially because we got gameplay of it, Callisto Protocol, made by the guys that made Dead Space.
Yeah, no, that one looks so good.
Yeah, like, it definitely feels Dead Spacey, because I think I was explaining to you when we were watching it, like, minimal HUD, like, straight up, like, your health bar is, like, basically this green thing behind your neck of the player model, or the character.
Yeah.
Really good graphics, although I feel like the YouTube compression definitely sort of like was messing with it. I think we both saw that. Like, we had it at, like, the full HD, but yeah, we still saw a little bit of like pixelation stuff that looked.
There was also
off.
a good amount of motion blur that made it very like
hard
to watch, especially for me.
Although, I mean, you and I talked about it. I mean, I'm not a graphics junkie, I guess, when it comes to video games. I'm not like, oh, it has to look super realistic or I'm not going to play it kind of thing. Because, I mean, I don't really care much for that. I care about gameplay, But I will say, the water physics that were being showed off in this trailer, freaking cool.
Oh, yeah, no, everything looks really nice. The gameplay looks really fun. I never was really that into Dead Space. It looks like a game I could be into.
Yeah, like, it's space horror stuff, and it seems like it's sort of leaning in towards that. I mean, heck, the way the trailer ends is very very telling of, like, like, oh yeah, no, you're not an invincible dude.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember there was a point in the trailer I was like, oh, he should be dead, and then it's like, oh no, he dead.
Yeah,
he dead.
Yeah,
coming back from that kind of injury.
All right, so I think then the next game that I thought was interesting to look at was Dune Awakening. We only got a trailer for it, but
yeah, no, they are banking hard on Dune now.
Yeah, because we had the Dune, like, I think, strategy game that's on early access on PC right now, which I thought was already out. Heck, yeah. I think you and I thought, oh, is this the new trailer for that Dune game? It's like, no, it's a different Dune game that is supposed to be an open world survival MMO. Now, granted, that sounds cool in theory, right? Like, it would be fucking cool to just ride a sandworm.
Yeah.
To do all that stuff, explore, the planet of Arrakis, right? At the same time, though, MMOs are very tricky to make. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV, when that first came out, like, it was a hot mess to the point where they had to start over.
They literally, like, nuked the game.
They nuked the game to make a better game.
Yeah.
And now, like, Final Fantasy XIV, like, Realm Reborn is, like, good.
Yeah.
Because they listened. So, I forget who the developer for this is supposed to be. But whoever it is, I feel like they have to, like, have seen what happened with Final Fantasy XIV and, like, a lot of other failed MMOs and have to be like, all right, we gotta, like, do this, and that to, like, correct this stuff,
Yeah, because, like, the thing about MMOs, and I'm saying this from my personal experience, it's always, like, having the time to do it, right? And oftentimes something like Destiny, while I really enjoyed Destiny, it's a thing where, like, man, I just don't have time to do all this stuff.
And here's the thing: Destiny's not even really that MMO, but it has a lot of MMO.
Exactly, it has. It's not very much. It's more like a looter shooter.
Yeah, but it has those MMO elements like raids and stuff.
Yeah, it has the elements that make it so that it's hard for someone like me who doesn't have as much time to play. Experience those stuff, and it's kind of a sad thing. But hopefully, like the Dune game. Well, it's only like a cinematic. It looks jaw-droppingly like amazing. Like there's some like cinematography level stuff going on in there. But yeah, Dune. It's also kind of weird because like the second movie isn't even out yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is interesting, like, not to say that, like, the Dune movie that came out, like, last year is fueling a Dune renaissance,
Yeah,
but it definitely seems like, whoever is, like, behind the Dune IP at this point really, really wants to be like, okay, we gotta push Dune. Like, it can't, it has the potential, like, I think when we talked about Dune, when we reviewed it, months back, you were like, this like has this was like sort of like a proto Star Wars, right?
yeah,
Like, so if you have a proto Star Wars, you can like you have the potential. It has the potential to get to like not Star Wars level, but like franchise level, right? And I think this is what they're trying to do.
and it might be against what a lot of what even I think because the director Denis Villeneuve doesn't really care much for like franchises, but like it has the potential of being like that kind of thing, especially considering how long the books are. Because like each book, because like there's like what 7 books in the
I think so, yeah.
yeah, so it's like there's a lot of story to be told. Even some people I know that have read the books have told me, oh, dude, there's a lot of stuff they didn't even talk about, and it's like, wow, okay, no, that's interesting. But yeah, and what's and the other game that we're talking about is
yeah, this one is a little bit of a interesting note. I only put it there because I just find it interesting that I think because I'm pretty sure this didn't happen for the PS4.
Yeah.
But the PS5 controller is getting basically a pro version. It's called the Edge. You can customize, your the joysticks and all that other stuff. It's very similar to the Xbox Pro controller that Xbox put out for the one or a couple years back. And they're doing. I think they're still doing it because it's compatible with the Series X. So I just found it to be interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Because I'm pretty sure it didn't happen for the PlayStation 4. I don't think I remember seeing like something like a.
But I do remember
controller.
like back in the day, a lot of people were talking about how Sony needs to kind of do something similar.
Yeah, because
a lot of people really like the idea of what the Pro Controller was capable of doing.
Yeah, like I mean, granted, like the price point, people are probably like a little iffy on, but from people who have decided to take that jump to use that Pro Controller, they're like, oh yeah, this is really good, and I think it's interesting that PlayStation is sort of finally like doing it, especially because it's developed by them, straight from like PlayStation.
And it reminds me of the fact that even Xbox looked at the new DualSense, right?
Yeah.
With all the stuff that it has, it's like, huh? You guys think we should try something like that?
Yeah, and I just wanted to highlight it because it is sort of like that like competition of like the different gaming companies, especially console makers, sort of like looking at each other and like trying to like not one up each other, but like provide similar stuff and create competition because that's what you really want in like the games industry, honestly.
Healthy competition.
Yeah. The next one, I liked it. I put it on here mainly because of the trailer. And we did get, I think, maybe a little bit of gameplay at the end of it. Lords of the Fallen.
Oh yeah, that game.
It like because it's kind of a bit like Dark Souls-esque, but
remember, it was only a cinematic.
Yeah, it does have like an interesting, I think, world kind of thing. It looks like you're like a knight who can has this light. They have to go around doing stuff. It definitely seems like it's going to be very Dark Souls inspired. Which I won't lie, is kind of interesting that we are seeing like this. I think maybe like a grand like just a lot of like Dark Souls-esque games starting to come out, especially considering one of the games I have on my list is also very Dark Souls inspired. And because I don't know, like it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's because stuff like Elden Ring like really like has pushed people to be like, or like various gaming companies to be like, we should make games like that. It feels like the Metroidvania genre,
Yeah. I see what you're saying now. Because like it's the Metroidvania, Metroid and Castlevania, they sort of revolutionized the entire genre to the point where they became a genre in themselves. And you see like a lot of especially nowadays, you see a lot more Metroidvania style games, especially with the return of Metroid Dread. Because you had like I guess the best one I can think of on top of my head would be Ori and the Will of the Wisp, or
Ori and the Will of the Wisp. That's a Metroidvania. I mean, heck, the original. I think one of the creators of Castlevania, made his own game. That's basically more or less kind of a spiritual successor, Bloodstain, right?
Yeah.
Which that's actually one of the few successful Kickstarter campaigns for a video game. Like, I think I'm not sure if they are making a sequel, but I mean, for what it's worth, that game did very well. Then you got, obviously, like Metroid Dread coming back. Like Metroid coming back with Metroid Dread, and that's a good game. I mean, heck, we got that game from that was shown on the Xbox press conference. I think it was the Curious Case of
Yeah. The Curious, that game was talked about, and it looked really good. It looked very interesting.
I'll double check the name, but it looks really cool. But yeah, it's very interesting, sort of just how we're essentially. I feel like we're getting to the point where like Dark Souls is gonna become its own genre, But yeah, going on to the next thing I have on my list. Is just we got a short trailer for the new Hogwarts Legacy game,
which I forget is coming out.
Yeah, it is coming out, and the other interesting thing about it is that it will be getting a Switch version at a later date.
Yeah,
which to me is like so interesting, and I think that's more or less the main reason why I want to talk about it, because for the most part, the trailer, I mean, we more or less just see dark arts or like a dark magic stuff, you know. I mean, if you're a big fan of the Harry Potter stuff, you're probably gonna love this game. It's probably gonna be like I can't think of another game where it's based off a huge property where you get to be in that universe or whatever.
Yeah, your own original character.
Your own original character kind of thing, like with the scale of what they want to do with the Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah. And considering how much effort they're putting into it, and seeing that it's going to be still on Switch, which is, well, for one, great that it's going to be on every console. Two, I'm surprised it's going to be on Switch, considering how
because
the way that game looks.
Because honestly, for most of the footage, I'm pretty sure we're looking at straight up like Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5 graphics, because it is going to be on the older generations as well. And you feel like those can run it decently well, but I don't know, because I'm not saying that it's impossible for the Switch to run this, because I mean it's able to run Doom, fairly well, but there's a lot of like technical wizardry like various companies have had to do in order to like make stuff run at a consistent rate, and it does look kind of not great. I mean, I think biggest example for me was The Witcher 3 when it came on Switch does not look that great when comparing to the other consoles, but for it being a Switch game and be able to run at a consistent frame rate, it's a goddamn miracle.
It is a miracle. It is indeed a miracle.
So it's gonna be very curious, and I think it's half of the reason why it's getting a different release date is because they're still working out a lot of kinks to make it work right.
Well, also just the fact that it's Harry Potter and it's become sort of like one of the biggest like franchises in the world, so it's so damn popular. So seeing like, them talking about this kind of product, you feel like you kind of have to take note, because it's kind of like hard to avoid, because it's such an interesting taking, and it's such an interesting game of itself. Despite some of the controversies that currently it's going through.
I mean, mainly with J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's soured some people. I mean, when it comes to their position on Harry Potter as a franchise or a series, I do know that J.K. Rowling is not really that involved with the making of this game. I don't think she's written anything for it. So, I mean, for any hardcore, diehard Harry Potter fans,
you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you can at least have a bit of a restful conscience.
Yeah,
on that sort of stuff. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Sonic Frontiers.
I should be excited for a game like this. It has everything I want for a Sonic game to have in current time.
Yeah.
But I've also heard a lot of not so good things about this game.
Yeah, like, I mean, I know that, like, I think one of the biggest criticisms that has been coming out of this game is that it feels a bit too empty,
Yeah.
For an open world. And, that's kind of a bad thing. If you're an open world game, you want to have lots of things to do. You want to make have this feeling that this world is immersive and alive and stuff. So, yeah, it's probably, like, going to be one of the bigger factors. I mean, it's very ambitious. I'll give Sega credit for that. Like, it takes the Sonic franchise into that direction. But, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just curiously optimistic. I just kind of want to see more stuff. We get a little bit of more story here.
Yeah.
A bit more gameplay. But overall, I think it's going to be interesting because...
Yeah, I'm not... personally, for me, it's not going to be like a day one by. It might be like a day later or two or a month or a week. Or whatever. I don't know how long it'll be before I buy this game. But it's... For me, the game looks like I said, it looks like everything I want it to be. Like, it's going to have some nice, like, on-rail stuff. Some classic Sonic stuff. But also, you get to run around in an open world. That sounds like something you would want, a fast character like Sonic to do, right? You want to run around and be free.
Yeah, because I think for the longest time, for the most part, you would have, like, maybe open world sections in, like, say, Sonic Adventure, but they're, like, in the city parts, and there's nothing to do in those things. Not, like, a huge open, like, vastness of space or whatever, like the open wilderness and stuff. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's one of the concepts that, like, is cool in theory, but you really got to nail the execution, and I hope Sega does that, because not to say that Sonic is in a bad spot in terms of video games, because, I mean, you get, like, Sonic Mania and stuff. People really like that. But, Sonic Frontiers for a lot of people was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I think that's the right word to say.
So, like, for the next big Sonic game, you kind of want it, it's like, at least, make a good game. The next one on the list that I have is Lies of P, which is a
Life
game...
of P, right? Or
No, it's Lies.
Lies, okay. I thought it was Life
Yeah,
of P.
because this game is a sort of steampunk take on Pinocchio.
Dark Souls style.
Dark Souls style, too.
Yeah.
Which, I'm going to be honest...
I think that for a lot of people, that was a highlight of the show, too.
Because it's like, you don't think about, like, okay, Pinocchio, but he's, like, a robot, and, like, it's Dark Souls gameplay. Okay, like...
That's crazy. I like it.
It's, like, one of those things where, like, you don't, like, when you, like, you hear it at first, and you're like, wait, what? But then you give it, like, a second thought, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, because... You get to, like, I really like it because we actually get, like, I think this is, like, one of the few trailers where it's, like, mostly gameplay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, I've always been more of, like, cinematic trailers are fine and all, but if you just give me some gameplay, like, because for the most part, if it's just a cinematic trailer, I'm more hyped about the concept than about what is, what
Congratulations,
is the game.
you're I was gonna say producer, but not a producer.
An advertising agent.
You're an advertising agent.
I understand advertising. That's how you're somewhat marketing.
Yeah, you know how to talk to the guys who are gonna give you the money.
Yeah, but in this case, we got some gameplay. It looks really cool. I mean, Pinocchio has a metal arm. You can I think you could change it out to a gun and stuff. That's pretty deep. Mm-hmm. He's carrying around like a big sword and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's fighting other robots. I do find it funny that like the trailer like reveals Geppetto and stuff, and it makes it seem as though like it's one of those like, oh my god moments, where it's like it's a slow, like he comes out of the thing, it slow pans to him, he's like, hey, I finally get to meet you again, son, and it's like it's Geppetto. Like I feel like it's meant to have the effect of like it's Geppetto, oh my god, but it's like okay.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like if you were to do that for, like, say, a Marvel movie, where, like, the trailer reveals like a new character, and you're like,
It's Thanos.
oh my god.
Yeah, no, that's how it was when I first saw Thanos. But no, I find it funny because like I think is it coming out this year or is it next year?
I don't actually. Let me double check because I feel like it might be next year.
Because like this is in just a short amount of time we have like at least 3 Pinocchio projects. The I guess remake, I guess whatever you want to call it, the one that Disney's doing for Disney
Yeah,
Plus.
the remake, the Disney remake of Pinocchio. Then we have the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio
which I'm
on
excited
Netflix,
for.
which does look pretty cool. And now we have Lies of P, which is another take on Pinocchio.
Did Pinocchio just get part of the?
No, I think it's always been in the creative.
Yeah.
Like it was like in the creative domain or whatever it's called.
Public domain.
Public domain, yeah. I think it's always been in there. Which, funny enough, actually reminds me that Winnie the Pooh is now public domain stuff. Which, because I remember there was like a trailer for like a very like horror inspired Winnie the Pooh, and you're like, and I think I remember being like, that's kind of weird, and it's like, oh, it's because Winnie the Pooh is in the public domain. It's not owned by Disney. It's just that Disney made like the most famous version of it, which is kind of what Disney has always done, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. But I'm pretty sure, Pinocchio's always been in the public domain for a while. But it looks like it's supposed to be coming out maybe this year, but probably next year. Okay,
so yeah, I was right. In just a short span, we got 3 Pinocchio titles coming out.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like a weird. It's like an inverse of Dune, where like you feel like, oh, it's because they want to market Dune to be a big franchise, and here it's just like, Pinocchio's cool. Let's go back. Let's revisit Pinocchio.
What can we do with Pinocchio that has not been done already?
Steampunk. Let's go.
Makes sense. But how do we tell this story? Video game. Make it Dark Souls.
Exactly. That's what's popular.
That's what we need.
That's what sells.
That's what sells.
And normally,
you're looking at Jim. Jim, that's a good idea. You get a raise today.
And normally you're like, this seems like a bad idea. But then when you see it in action, boy, does that look cool.
Thank God it was people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because like this could have also be like, because if you were to say that to a normal person out in the middle of the street, middle of Houston, Texas, right? You go down downtown, it's like, hey, would you play a Dark Souls style Pinocchio game where it's all steampunk? And they look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get away from me. Crazy man.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's definitely a highlight of the Gamescom reveals yesterday. Another one which I find interesting is a Killer Clowns from Outer Space video game made by the guys that made the Friday the 13th video game. So it's in a very similar style of it's a multiplayer game where you play, or like 4 people play the survivors, and then you have other players playing the killer.
I think the guys who made that lost the rights to using Friday the 13th. That's why they moved on to something else. I could have sworn they were doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, or I might be confusing with studios. But essentially, like, the idea that we're making a Killer Clowns from Outer Space video game is a genius idea.
Honestly, it is one of those like super like
it's a cult horror film.
It's a cult horror film because the idea is stupid. Like the title, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah,
that is the dumbest thing.
That is the most B movie thing you can ever hear.
Like B movie thing, or like The Blob,
Yeah.
But for a video game, and because we do get to see a little bit of gameplay.
Yeah.
And it is in that style of Friday the 13th, so it does have. I think it will be kind of fun, especially I think it'd be more interesting because obviously with the Friday the 13th video game you play as Jason, you just run around like chopping people up and stuff.
Well, the camp counselors try to find a way to escape. And if you're lucky enough, you come back as this one dude who
like the one guy who was able to kill Jason.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But no, it is kind of a neat. Like I think it'll be more creative, I guess, because we do get to see from the gameplay like the clowns are using like all these crazy weapons and stuff. So
just like they did in the movie.
yeah, so like I feel like there's gonna be a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah. Which my one question is, how goofy are we gonna go? Because that movie was super goofy.
I mean, it probably will go into some very goofy places, which I'm all in for, because obviously with a title like that, you gotta go goofy.
Yeah. And what's the next game we got?
The next game I have, and it was the last game they announced, the long-awaited Dead Island 2.
Which I totally forgot was a thing.
I do too, but I remember it, the reason why I remember it is because it had a trailer like long ago where it's just this guy running through like the streets of like Venice Beach or whatever, and like as he's running around, you see all the zombie stuff happening, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very famous, iconic trailer. But I think the thing was that the developers that were making it like closed down, so that never got made. Mm-hmm. You only got that trailer. But we got another trailer, and we actually got a little bit of gameplay, I think. I'll double check on that, which is very good.
I didn't get a chance to see it, but I heard it was shown off. But I'm guessing, did it show gameplay?
I'm pretty sure we did get a little bit of gameplay in there. Because I believe, it's coming out
this year.
Yeah, I believe it is coming out. Yeah, it comes out in February. So yeah. So that's, I think, perfect. We get like a trailer. It's this dude in LA, just like going about his day, killing zombies, going to the store, picking stuff up, like living that life. And it does seem like we're getting like a sort of a story of like, it's these people who are living in like a post-zombie society, just like living their life in LA. And we do get to see a little bit of gameplay, I believe. And it looks fun. I think granted I was never really like, I guess, that into the Dead Island, like the first one. I thought it was neat. Mm-hmm. I think the main reason why it got popular was because the Dead Island 1's trailer.
Oh, with the little girl.
Yeah, is
yeah, that got some emotions.
It's definitely like one of those trailers where you're just like, holy Jesus. Which is why I feel like these newer trailers definitely are leaning in the opposite direction of like going with a more comedic kind of style. Just like,
yeah, because that was always the thing about that first trailer, right? It's the dude who's walking down, he's like, jamming out to his song and like not noticing
all the chaos just happening, And here we got like not a similar vibe, but it's just like a dude just like going around, like he's going to the store, he's just killing zombies on the way, like annoyed at this point about all the zombies.
Yeah,
just like,
which is like it's still the same thing, but kind of in a weird way. I'm just now remembering that didn't E3 they did like a goat simulator one that was just like
that was like it was an announcement for like I think Goat Simulator 2, but it was in the parody of No, actually, you're right. Goat Simulator 3 was announced at earlier this year, and it was a parody of the Dead Island 2 trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
The first one. Yeah, so yeah.
Because I remember watching, I was like, Dead Island 2? That game's still coming out?
And no, it's a goat.
I was like, oh, it's a goat.
Goat Simulator, bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think it was an interesting reveal, especially because it is coming out so soon in relative time.
Yeah.
So happy for those guys, or like I guess happy for Dead Island fans finally getting a sequel. That they were promised so long ago. I don't really have much else to talk about, although I will say I think another interesting note from the Gamescom was I guess a clip of a boss fight from the High on Life game made by I think one of the creators of Rick and Morty. And I'm gonna be honest, it was very underwhelming.
For which one?
The High on Life game. You remember the
guns? Oh yeah.
It was like surprisingly underwhelming.
I feel like and so was the crowd.
Yeah, I think the crowd as well. They were just like, yeah, I guess, because it was like a showcase of a boss, like an early boss fight, and I think the highlight of that trailer was supposed to be the witty dialogue and stuff, and not necessarily the gameplay. Because like looking at the gameplay, it's just kind of whatever. Well, like I guess like there's a lot of like I don't know, because the humor wasn't really like hitting it.
So, and here's my thing, right? and I was talking about this. I like Justin Roiland's some of his shows, but his comedy is just so kind of it's become very apparent. Like a Justin Roiland comedy when you see it, when you see when you see like the jokes coming in, the way they're delivered, and once you get that for a whole game, and you said this yourself too, that when you're focused on playing the game, you're not going to be focusing on the witty dialogue. And it's like, and Justin Roiland likes to do different characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he will do these characters in a funny way, but think of it but they won't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because they were the knife guy, I was like, I don't want to hear this dude anymore. I find him so annoying. Nothing he says is funny.
Yeah.
And because that's kind of the joke, right?
Yeah.
That your weapons talk to you, and
they'll have different personalities and
they
stuff.
have different personalities and stuff, which on paper sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
But in games, like you were saying, like you were telling me that yesterday, you're too focused on what you're doing to focus on the witty banter.
And I feel like, if you, like, obviously you can probably multitask both.
Yeah.
But if you're just, like, more, like, focused on wanting to listen to the dumb jokes that are being made, like, you're in the middle of a boss fight. I mean, you're like, I just want to get through the boss, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of, like, not slows down, I guess, yeah, probably, that's probably the right word, slows down the boss fight experience for you. Instead of just like having it be normally paced, you're just kind of like distracted by all the dumb stuff that's happening. And to be fair, there's probably like various games that are able to like balance like witty, funny humor in the middle of a boss fight.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that generally happens when you're like moving into the next stage of a boss fight. They'll like have some banter back and forth, not during the middle of the fight. And
it's like it doesn't really help that it's the jokes just again aren't landing, dude. Like it's so like you gotta watch the show to know what I mean, really, because like just you'll notice, you'll see it immediately afterwards when they both start talking to each other, and it's just like, wow, this isn't that great. I was hoping for better because it's just a Roiland. He's kind of like the it guy right now. But something I did know that I did like think about, it's like this would be a better game for streaming wise, because when you're streaming it, you're watching someone play it, you're not gonna be bothered by like one, you're gonna look at some great gameplay, someone doing some cool stuff with that game, but also the funny banter, right? Probably the guy playing it isn't gonna notice it, but the audience is.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like this was like that experience for people. Like the trailer is supposed to be that experience of like you just watching someone play a game and like listening to the banter. But in this case, it doesn't really work that well.
No, it doesn't. You're right. But I'm like that's.
But I'm guessing, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you that I think that's probably the idea.
Yeah. But
in this execution wise, it
didn't work. No. I'm trying to give good points, but There are obviously flaws in my ideas, but also they talked about Tales from the Borderlands.
Just a sequel to Tales of the Borderlands, which I thought was neat. They're getting because I think Telltale's is still it went down, but it kind of came back because they're doing Wolf Among Us 2. But for Gearbox, they were just like, hey, let's make a second Tales of the Borderlands, but we'll just bring in the people, like some former Telltale's developers, and we'll have and writers and stuff, and we'll do it ourselves, which that's neat. Because I think I remember the first Tales of the Borderlands was well received, so getting a sequel, that's pretty cool for the most part. But besides that, I think. I think that's about it.
That's about it.
Most notable ones, yeah.
Yeah, I feel, and overall, I think this Gamescom was fine. Gamescom has always been a conference where they show off like games that aren't like AAA games, right?
Oftentimes, you will get like one or two of the big hitters. I feel of like a big announcement, but for the most part, Gamescom is sort of like because I feel like most people like to save like big announcements for stuff either during E3 time, which is like early June, or during the Game Awards, which is like in December. Which, by the way, I think that's the other thing. Like December 8th this year is going to be Game Awards season. So but yeah, overall, this Gamescom, I like I said, I think people were a little disappointed because they wanted to see stuff like God of War, because that comes out this year. But I mean, for the most part, I think it was a solid Gamescom. We got a lot of interesting games out of it. And Liza P was definitely, I think, the highlight.
Yeah, because it was so different.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was still a solid game show, game conference, and I think that's what really, I think that's what counts, right? And who knows, there might be more announcements coming that we don't know about, because usually that's always what happens. Because
Gamescom is sort of like kind of a week thing.
Yeah,
it's not just a one day kind of thing. So we'll probably get to see we might get like a little bit more different announcements over the coming days. So that's gonna be neat to see.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, guys, that's the end of the episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us on all social media: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the Geek Centurions. We're most active on Instagram, where you'll find a link to all podcasts that we're officially part of, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and the like. And you'll find a link to the YouTube for all y'all listeners out there who want to put a face to the voice. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and support us on any form on Patreon. And yeah, that's it for the episode, guys. Anyways, Gamescom is going on, hopefully, or at the end of it. There were some good announcements, and I hope you guys enjoyed and are excited for these new games coming out. Anyways, it's been me, your boy Eli.
It's been me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.